Allen Lund Company has new offices in Ogden, Utah and Indianapolis, Indiana. Check allenlund.com to reach them.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
Our preview of OOIDA's upcoming Truck to Success seminar continues with a breakdown of the insurance and claims portion of the 3-day event. Aspiring owner-operators have a lot of decisions to make with regard to insurance. Margot Fries, Josie Feltrop, and Megan Tinajero of OOIDA share with us what they share with Truck to Success attendees about the insurance and claims process. Also on today's program, across the U.S. and Canada, truckers gather to do something close to their hearts, support the athletes in Special Olympics. And this year, one of those efforts is celebrating a special anniversary. The Special Olympics Ontario Truck Ride, formerly the world's largest truck convoy Ontario, is 20 years old this year. I'll talk with organizer Tammy Blackwell and OOIDA member Ken Dane. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. We'll begin with an update from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration on the number of participants in its under-21 pilot program. The last time the agency provided numbers, there were 40 approved carriers taking part, along with 28 apprentice drivers operating on roadways. Both numbers are up. For approved carriers, it's up slightly by 4 to 44 total now. For apprentice drivers, the number nearly doubled to 52. The Safe Driver Apprenticeship Program, as it's called, launched in 2022. It allows drivers between the ages of 18 to 20 years old with an intrastate commercial driver's license to operate in interstate commerce using a CMV under certain conditions. The pilot program, set to end next summer, is intended to accommodate up to 1,000 carriers and 3,000 enrolled apprentices at any given time. The current numbers clearly fall far short of that target. Earlier this year, an appropriations bill removed some of the pilot program's restrictions in hopes of attracting more applicants, including the removal of driver-facing camera requirements. The Canadian rail work stoppage basically ended before it even began, but the union on one side of the dispute says their fight isn't over. Over the weekend, an arbitrator with the Canada Industrial Relations Board ordered all employees of Canadian National and Canadian Pacific Kansas City to go back to work. The Teamsters have complied, but add they're going to mount a legal challenge. Paul Boucher, president of the Teamsters Canada Rail Conference, said the decision sets a dangerous precedent, signaling to corporations that they need only stop their operations for a few hours, inflict short-term economic pain, and the federal government will step in to break a union. The railroads and the union are at odds over wages and scheduling and contract rules designed to prevent fatigue. There was a brief stoppage in rail freight last week. Chances of a prolonged work stoppage stoked fears of supply chain problems and trade issues. The U.S. Department of Transportation says billions of dollars of goods move between Canada and the U.S. by rail each month. In case you didn't already know, Brake Safety Week is underway. The Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance's annual Safety Blitz began Sunday across Canada, Mexico, and the United States. As with any other year, inspectors across North America are out in force, conducting brake inspections on large trucks and buses. The special focus this year is on brake linings and brake pads. Results from the week-long enforcement blitz will be released later this year. Brake Safety Week runs through Saturday. Meanwhile, in Maryland, a different kind of safety blitz. The Montgomery County Department of Police was on the lookout for impaired commercial vehicle drivers last Thursday. Nearly 100 violations were handed out following 27 inspections. Police didn't say how many, if any, drivers were cited for driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. The Montgomery County Department of Police said the blitz is part of a pilot program dedicated to keeping impaired commercial drivers off the road. We both know you have concerns when it comes to the trucking industry, and the American Transportation Research Institute wants to hear them. ATRI just launched its annual Top Industry Issues Survey. It asked stakeholders to rank the top issues of concern for the trucking industry. The input will go into a report that ranks the issues by motor carriers and by professional drivers. It also includes best strategies for addressing each issue. The survey is now open and will stay that way through September 27th. The results will be released on October 12th. 2 New Jersey state legislators are calling for hearings on recent electric vehicle mandates that were approved by a state agency. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection recently adopted the Advanced Clean Cars 2 and the Advanced Clean Trucks electric vehicle mandates. Both align pretty closely with California standards. The New Jersey truck rule set to take effect on January 1st would require manufacturers to sell zero direct emission trucks as an increasing percentage of their annual sales through 2035. But two GOP state lawmakers, one of whom owns a trucking company, says the state agency bypassed the legislature and doesn't have the authority to institute such a mandate. They want to hold hearings. One concern among many is the cost of complying with trucking electrification and the trickle-down effect that could have on consumers. An emergency order in South Carolina issued in response to Tropical Storm Debbie has been extended. Flooding has been the main problem there. The emergency order exempts the operators of commercial vehicles providing direct aid from hours of service restrictions. The extension runs through September 17th. Size and weight exemptions are also in place. Those run through December 16th, again, for motor carriers providing direct assistance. A stretch of Interstate 70 through western Kansas will shut down for 24 hours next week. It's in Trego County. Crews will shut the highway down starting early Wednesday morning, September 4th, to replace a bridge that's been hit multiple times by higher loads. Detours will be posted, but those have the sheriff of Sheridan County concerned. The traffic being rerouted will go through some small towns with narrow highways that don't have shoulders. Despite that, the Kansas DOT intends to move ahead with their plans. Estes Express Lines has added more than half a dozen new terminals, all of which used to belong to Yellow. The Lesson Truckload Company says it recently closed on lease purchases for 7 terminals. The biggest is in Charlotte, North Carolina, which has 275 doors. In fact, that makes it Estes' largest terminal in the U.S. The other new locations are in Milwaukee, Minneapolis, and Eugene, Oregon, among others. In all, Estes has purchased 29 terminals and 10 Estes-owned terminal leases, once possessed by Yellow. The American Truck Historical Society has announced its 2024 scholarship winners. The recipients of the George Schroyer Memorial Scholarship are Cash McCord and Dio Reed IV. John Goodfellow, grandson of OIDA member Marty Glom, was awarded the Cummins Scholarship, and Anna Rodas is this year's recipient of the Lewis Simple Clark Educational Fund. ATHS says these outstanding students have made significant impacts in their communities and schools. ATHS will begin accepting 2025 scholarship applications on December 1st. The deadline to submit applications is April 15th. And finally, Iowa 80 Truck Stop is celebrating its 60th anniversary by sponsoring a $60,000 cash giveaway. Customers get a chance to win with every purchase made at participating Iowa 80 group locations, including the Iowa 80 Truck Stop in Walcott, Iowa, the Kinley 95 Petro Truck Stop in Kinley, North Carolina, and the Joplin 44 Petro Truck Stop in Joplin, Missouri. The Iowa 80 60th Anniversary Sweepstakes is accepting entries until October 4th. Contestants can enter up to 5 times a day. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. TA Petro is accepting nominations for its annual Citizen Driver Award. The program honors drivers for leadership, good citizenship, safety, health and wellness, and community involvement. Winners have a TA Petro location named in their honor and have $2,500 given to their charity of choice. You can learn more or make a nomination at the website citizendriveraward.com. The deadline for nominations is October 7th. Again, that website is citizendriveraward.com. Starting Wednesday, Marty Ellis and OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker, will be at the Jubitz Travel Plaza in Portland, Oregon. That's located at exit 307 off Interstate 5. Stop in, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA for a $10 discount. You can write a letter to your elected officials in Congress or look up contact information for lawmakers on the state and federal level by using the website fightingfortruckers.com. Next, Scott Thompson breaks down some insurance topics with Margot Fries, Josie Feltrop, and Megan Tina Harrow of OOIDA. And I'll discuss a Special Olympics convoy celebrating a special anniversary. We'll be back in a moment. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Every year, 28 million people are trafficked globally. The Your Roads, Their Freedom campaign seeks to raise awareness in the transport industry. Truck and bus drivers, be vigilant on the roads. If you see something suspicious, text 233-733 or be free.
Truckdown.com. Whenever you have a breakdown, you need Truckdown.com. 24/7 access to 40,000 verified heavy-duty repair vendors nationwide. Truck Down Verified, vendor qualified. Truckdown.com.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Welcome back to Landline Now, and welcome to another installment of our Truck to Success series of segments where we preview October's 3-day seminar and give you a sense of what you might learn there. Today, we're going to delve into the sometimes overwhelming world of insurance and claims, and here to break it all down for us are Margot Fries, Josie Feltrop, and Megan Tinajero of OIDA, all of whom are presenting at Truck to Success. How are we all doing?
Doing good this morning.
Thanks for being here. Let's start with insurance, something I think all of us are familiar with, obviously, when it comes to passenger vehicles. But if we're talking insurance for a commercial truck, we're talking a lot of ins, a lot of outs that people probably aren't as familiar with, I would imagine, especially if they're starting out. This is a different animal altogether, lots and lots to consider, right?
That is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's walk through kind of everything that we do have to think about, starting with the operation, right? Your needs are going to vary based on what you want to do or what you are doing, right?
What the type of operation is, yes.
So walk
Sure.
us through that.
So when you talk about operations in trucking, you have basically two. You have your people who have their own authority, their own MC and DOT number, and then you have guys who have their own truck and are leasing on to somebody else. Those are the two operations in trucking that are going to have some kind of insurance. So when you have your own authority, probably a good chunk of your cost is going to come from your insurance base. And so that's where, when you have your own authority, you have to have the most insurance. You have to have the $1 million that FMCSA requires for the public liability. You have to have some kind of cargo coverage to cover the products that you're hauling. And then you have your basic physical damage for your equipment. So those are the big three. When you're leased on, you have physical damage, and then you also have a secondary liability that your motor carrier requires. So those are the main insurances, and then we have tons of supplementary coverages that we really encourage our guys to have. The big one is the supplemental towing and cleanup.
Yeah.
That we really encourage our guys to have.
Which we're definitely going to talk about here in a little bit. But I think you raised something that we've been talking about throughout these segments, is that you've got to kind of know yourself when you're starting out and ask yourself a bunch of questions. When it comes to insurance, I think you kind of touched on the two big questions, or I guess the one big question that you've got to answer for yourself is what type of operation are you going to have? But that is something that is very important, right? To make sure that you're considering what you're going to be doing and what that means for insurance, right?
Sure. So a lot of the things that I talk to guys about is, especially in this economic climate that we have, is which way is going to be better for you. So are you going to get your own authority? If you're going to get your own authority, do you know what your per mile cost is going to be? Do you know that you're going to have the loads and the business to keep that going? Do you have enough enough savings to keep you going that first few months until you really start having money come in? So those are some things I talk to guys about. If you don't have those things, or if you're not sure, then leasing on may be a better option to start out with until you are more comfortable in the industry and knowing what's going on.
There's so much to consider with insurance, and as I kind of said at the beginning there, I think we're all familiar with it, but again, this is a whole different animal here. The people that come to Truck to Success specifically, what kind of misconceptions or misunderstandings do they come into the seminar with, and what are you trying to help them with, I guess, along the way?
I think one of the big misconceptions is that it's a lot easier than what they think. They don't understand all of the cost and bookkeeping that goes along with it. A lot of guys can drive, but it's the bookkeeping in the background that really makes the business successful and where you see your bottom dollars. Then, when you have your insurance, you're running, whether you're leased onto an owner operator or you have your own authority, then a claim situation comes in, and then you really know, did I have the right insurance coverage? Do I have enough savings to get me through this time while my truck is getting repaired, or I'm finding another truck or trailer, whatever the situation may be? And when they get to the seminar, when they hear these, it really makes them step back and think, I don't know if I have enough money set aside to do what I'm wanting to do right now. It might be best that I wait and I do lease onto a motor carrier, get my feet wet, and figure out all the costs that are going to be contributed to this operation.
Yeah. Let's talk basics here, because when we're talking about insurance and insuring your stuff, obviously we're talking about the tractor, trailer as well, if you have one. Can we just kind of go over all the things that you've got to keep in mind when you're insuring your stuff? Because there's a lot to consider here, right?
There is a lot to consider, and there's a lot of misinformation that our guys get, that, like, especially our leased owner operator guys that come to us, they think the motor carrier's covering their truck and trailer, and in all actuality, there's no coverage for them. So we like to make sure that our leased guys are reading those contracts, making sure what they actually need, making sure they have some kind of physical damage somewhere, whether it's with us or with somebody else or with the motor carrier, so that in a claim situation, their equipment is covered. And so they're not starting back at square one with nothing.
Yeah. And that happens
a lot,
unfortunately. Yeah. And that's kind of a misunderstanding, I think, of knowing what they need, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you got to know what you need. And obviously the seminar itself will help walk everybody through it. And we've talked about this before, but the great thing about it is that the experts, you all, are in the room. They can come up to you and you can ask questions and find out what they need and kind of guide them through that process there. You mentioned earlier, Josie, optional supplemental coverages. There's so many out there. It's that can get overwhelming, I know, for sure. What kinds of things do you recommend in terms of, optional supplemental coverage that people get to make sure that they are covered in the event of something happening?
Well, I can tell you from a claim standpoint, what our insureds realize at claim time is that they didn't have those supplemental coverages that they should have had. Some of the major ones are the supplemental towing and cleanup. Sometimes the roadside breakdown comes in very handy. There's supplemental downtime payments. There's rental reimbursement. So there's a lot that they think about once they no longer have use of their tractor and trailer. And so they start to panic. And so that's when we start talking to them about those coverages and what they should have maybe next time around.
That's a tough thing, and I do this for better and for worse. But you go and you sign up for something, and then they try to throw this thing, and you need this and that, and your instinct is to say no, I don't need that. I don't want to pay anything extra. Just give me the basic stuff.
I need the cheapest possible to get started.
Exactly.
And I hear all the time.
And we understand that
Sure.
sentiment, obviously, especially when you're getting started. You want to make sure that you are saving money and saving up for a rainy day. How do you kind of talk people into making sure that they are, covering all those bases? Because it is about being ready for that rainy day, right?
Well, I think that nobody ever expects to be in an accident.
Yeah,
you don't
for sure.
think it's going to happen to you. And so you do try to save a buck up front. But once you're in that situation, you want to be fully covered. And you want to make sure you have the cash reserves for deductibles. And I know that with OOIDA's insurance, there's separate deductibles for cargo, and then there's a separate one for truck and trailer. So a lot of these guys, they're not prepared to cover that type of loss. And then the downtime is a big deal too. So I think just being prepared for the unexpected,
Yeah.
especially with cargo, because these tow bills, if you dump your load all over the highway, that tow bill is the majority for cargo. It gets pricey quick.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And some of the supplemental coverages, I mean, obviously every little bit adds up, but some of them are not. I mean, we're not talking about an astronomical amount of money, right? Some of them are what?
Yeah. I mean, you can add supplemental towing and cleanup to your policy on your own authority for as little as $20 a month. And then it goes up from there. So, I mean, it's all about fitting your coverage to what you want. And you can start with the basics and then raise it later if you want to, or you can start with the max and bring it down later. You know, we're very flexible. We work with our guys all the time.
Yeah.
You know, we're constantly making changes for them.
As someone who has a aversion to sales pitches and things like that, you know, as I mentioned, when you go into these things, and we were talking about phones earlier before we started recording, you know, they want to throw this coverage on there that I'm like, no, I'm good. Just, give me the phone, you know? So I understand that kind of feeling, when it comes to that kind of thing. The good thing about Truck to Success and OOIDA, I think, is you're not trying to like oversell somebody. You really are trying to look out for them in the event that something happens, and I think that's important. And that comes across, I think, from everybody that works here and is at the Truck to Success seminar as well. They want to help, right? I just kind of want to ask each of you here, because you've all done the seminar and presented there and helped people along the way. When people come to it, what are you trying to make sure that they understand? What's the key thing that you feel like they will take away or do take away from the seminar each and every time that they go? And I can kind of go around the table here. It's a pop quiz of sorts, I guess. But what are you trying to make sure that they walk away with, I guess, from the seminar?
I try to make sure that they just understand what was explained. I've had many of them come up afterwards and ask questions, and I come back to the office. I'll get them the material that they've asked for, what they wanted more information on, and then go back the next day and give it to them, and then we'll discuss it further. That way they have a full understanding of what's going on. I want them to, ask as many questions as possible, because that's the way to learn.
Yeah, because it can be tailor-made to anybody.
Yes, anybody.
Who attends, right? Yeah.
And that's why I like the one-on-one conversations at the seminar, because you can tailor make it to that member and what he or she is looking for.
Right. Some of these things are going to apply to everybody. But again, everybody's different. Everybody has their own needs.
Absolutely.
They all come in with their own histories and
Yes.
everything. So everybody, has their own things. Josie, Megan, what are you trying to kind of make sure that people come away with?
I try to cover all kinds of different operations under the cargo umbrella. So I think that a lot of them, it is kind of daunting. It's a lot of information, but it's a real relaxed atmosphere, and we do this every day. So we're used to talking to these guys, and we know Margo and I know what kind of claims we see on a regular basis. So for me, it's about information. It's about, helping them prevent a loss as much as I possibly can. Because nobody wants to have a claim, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And being prepared when a claim does happen. One thing that I show on my presentation is the different types of claims and what to do. Because when you're in an accident, you're panicking. But the first thing you really need to do is just stay calm. Just assess the situation, see what you got, make the phone calls, and stay calm.
Yeah. And as Megan, you said earlier, nobody thinks they're going to get in that situation. It happens. It happens all the time, unfortunately. And again, if you're covering yourself in the event of that, then you're in a much better place than you would be otherwise. There's a lot to consider. Again, Truck to Success, the three of you will be there. You will be there to answer those questions. We appreciate you being here today to answer our questions. Josie, Megan, and Margo, we thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And a few quick reminders here before we roll into a break. Truck to Success runs for 3 days starting October 22nd in Blue Springs, Missouri. There's an in-person option and an option to attend via Zoom. Truck2success.com is the place to go for all your answers to all the questions that may be out there. Now, as for that break, we'll take it now, but don't go too far, because Landline Now continues in just a moment.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine Vibratech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with Vibratech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off TruckStop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Across the U.S. and Canada, truckers gather in various locations to do something close to their hearts. Support the athletes who take part in Special Olympics. And this year, one of those efforts is celebrating a special anniversary. You're listening to Landline Now, and I'm your host, Mark Redding. Welcome back to the program. The Special Olympics Ontario Truck Ride, formerly the world's largest truck convoy Ontario, is 20 years old this year. And this year, the truckers will gather in Paris, Ontario on September 13th and 14th. As they do every year, those who organize and participate in the event hope to raise tens of thousands of dollars to support those athletes. Tammy Blackwell is a longtime organizer and chair of the event, and OOIDA member Ken Dane of Kitchener, Ontario, is a longtime participant who also helps out with some aspects of the event's operations. I spoke with the two of them about the overall event and its special anniversary this year, plus what their part in the event is.
I started as a driver probably about 7 years ago, and I decided that I was going to help get products and so forth for the driver bags and so forth, and Tammy was really interested in that and contacts that I had in the trucking industry and so forth.
Okay, and Tammy, what about you?
Well, I have had the absolute pleasure of chairing this event. We myself and a couple others were the founding startup for the Ontario arm, and it's just been a joy. This will be year 20, and there's always lots to plan, but we have such a reward between the driver relationships and the athlete relationships that so I wear the hat for sponsorship, for liaisoning with people like Ken, and Ken, among a few other drivers, sort of stepped up and took a bigger role and reached out to their contacts like OIDA. And they're sort of our boots on the ground. They tell the story best, and they're the best possible reps we could have.
I'd like to kind of get into the convoy itself and the event overall. Some of these various convoys are just a convoy. The trucks get together, they run, they stop. Some of these turn into an entire event, almost like a little truck show. Walk us through with the Ontario convoy, what happens that weekend?
Well, you're 100% right, and every program develops for its own reasons, as did Ontario. We start because we need to get set up with, we're at the Paris Fairgrounds, and we need to have quite a setup process. We go in on Friday. So we thought, well, we're going to be here anyway. Why don't we let some of the drivers come in Friday as well? And so then we started to build it with a Friday night meal. And then that brought along entertainment. And in the early years, it was a younger group. So we had a lot of young kids. So we had a children's entertainer on stage, but that sort of progressed over time as those younger ones have grown up and actually are now volunteers and are drivers. But so we run a program till about 11 o'clock, and that's when we announce our lead truck for the next morning. We allow that lead truck to stay open until 8 o'clock the next morning to choose our top 12. But we'll close the doors Friday night at 11. Everybody gets some sleep if they're on the grounds. 6 o'clock, we open the doors. We've got our local Tim Hortons up here with coffee, but then that is expanded, Mark, to include female and she's on a bun, and that's when our athletes start coming in at 8 o'clock. And then it just rolls from there, so that by 10 a.m., we're doing a driver meeting. The trucks go out with our athletes, and they're about a 2-hour run. They go 1 hour out. We always joke that we built this route to turn around just before the inspection station. And so they make a roundabout just before the coops and come back to the fairgrounds. They're met with a lunch, a lot of awards. We do quite a large draw section, and we've got a great MC. I'm sure most people are aware of Jim Park. He's been out there for a long time was originally a driver, but Jim is a journalist, does a lot of truck testing for magazines, etc. So Jim brings a lot to the party as well. And over the years, we've just built on that. We usually like to end the day with an interaction with the athletes before we say goodbye. So that's either been a ball game or a truck pull over the years. So we'll compete with the drivers, athletes. And because the LETR, the law enforcement group, are there, we'll include them in that activity. So it's a fun way to end the day.
And you mentioned the LETR. That's the law enforcement torch run, right?
Correct. They are the largest fundraising arm of Special Olympics worldwide.
Now, this is a special anniversary year, as you mentioned, the 20th anniversary. I'm wondering if you can walk us back a little bit and tell us, how did the convoy start there in Ontario?
Well, as all things truck related, my husband's a truck driver. I had done truck shows. He was involved in those over the years. They're a lot of work when you're doing a large show like we used to. It was 10 days, set up, tear down activities, and it got a bit too much, and so we had drawn away from that, and I still had drivers saying, "Oh, come on, you got to do another truck show," and I just had no interest in that side of things. But it was always for charity, and I did like that piece of it. So, as you well know, the transportation industry is an extremely benevolent industry. They do like to fundraise, and a driver life. It's not possible to be a member of the Optimist Lions and places like that when you're on the road, but that doesn't mean those drivers don't want to give back to their community. He heard about the Florida convoy, and I started doing my homework on Corporal Norm and started to reach out to him, and Alberta had done one. And unfortunately, they had a bit of a bad situation on the road, and so I didn't know really where to turn. I just reached out to the local SO, Special Olympics, and said, "We're interested, we'd like to talk." And we got together with the representative at the time, and they just were very skeptical. They couldn't understand why the trucking industry would want to reach out and do this. And there hadn't been a lot of them yet. So it was more a case of, "Sure, but we don't know how to support you." And we said, "That's okay," because we have a group, and we did have a very good group of folks that were familiar with events, knew how to put it together, had the connections. And we said, "We'll do this with your blessing." So they allowed it. In the first year, they were just like, "This is crazy. This is amazing. These people coming out." And you find out things. And we had one or two drivers we found out had been coaches at one time with with Special Olympics. And anyways, it grew from there. That was how it started, and we didn't look back.
I'm kind of curious about the why of this. There are convoys across the U.S. and Canada as part of this movement to support Special Olympics, and some have started up, some of them have not continued. I'm curious why you think it is that Ontario has gone so long. What about it made it endure for 20 years?
We do get asked that. We even get asked this. LETR meet in a conference. They get asked that on a regular basis. And we're not always, by far, we're not the biggest convoy, but we are consistently bringing in good receipts. Last year it says 81 on our website. We were 82.5. We were 82 the year before. We've been as high as 130,000. But I mean, our drivers typically run around 70 to 80. So you think, gosh, sometimes we're a little discouraged and we say, why can't we get more trucks? The most we've ever had is 133. But it's not about that. It's about the recipe. These folks, again, they want to do it. I think, Mark, we reach out. Let me back up. The number one reason is there are a lot of trucking people involved in this. So we use our resources to speak to our vendors, to speak to our companies. I can say this out loud. I work for a Kenworth dealership. So I know the customers that are community involved. We work together on those sort of things. We built a committee that were people from the industry. And so we know our customer being the driver. And I always say that. We do this for Special Olympics, but we do this as a liaison committee for drivers who are like Ken out on the road. They can't be here to make all the phone calls and process things like agendas and ordering T-shirts and things. We really are just an arm of the drivers. And I think that respect we give the drivers as being the number one point is part of it. It's a concern for LETR organizations sometimes that they don't maybe have a good connection. Corporal Norm is a great example. There's a guy who his family owned a trucking company, so he understood I'll call him the animal, the truck driver. But so you heard my phone ring a minute ago. That was a truck driver. He's probably just dropped another parcel off to somebody. We get excited when they get excited. So I think that's what works. We genuinely want to do this together for and with them. And we've just created a family, Mark. And it sounds, quaint, but that's what it is. We look forward to seeing each other every year, getting caught up, finding out. It's like that friend that you pick up with after a year and nothing's changed, but you find out, how their children are doing or how their job's going, and that's what this has become. It's become a reunion. And we like to bring in more family every year, but we love to keep those old relationships too.
Ken, I want to turn to you here. Something that Tammy mentioned a little bit ago was that some of the Special Olympics athletes will ride along with some of the truckers in the event and have done that in the past. And as a driver who's involved here, how do your fellow truckers react to having the athletes with them in the trucks? What does that mean to them?
Well, it means a great deal. Like, they love having them. A lot of them have the same athlete every year that comes back. But, you get to know the athlete, you get to know their circumstances, the different events that they do, and so forth. And they have fun, they play on the CB, they talk back and forth to each other on the CB and all. And, the athletes just enjoy it. And then, it's a boost to us that we can take them and show them what we do and show them basically what our house is like for the week or the month or however long we're on the road.
You've been listening to a conversation I had recently with Tammy Blackwell, a longtime organizer and chair of the Special Olympics Ontario Truck Ride, formerly the world's largest truck convoy Ontario, and OOIDA member Ken Dane, a longtime participant who also helps with the event. We'll be back after a short commercial break with more of my conversation with Blackwell and Dane. Meanwhile, if you want to take part in the Special Olympics Ontario Truck Ride, here's a few details. The event surrounding the drive starts Friday, September 13th, but the actual ride takes place Saturday, September 14th. The cost is $100 per person and includes not only a spot in the convoy, but also a driver's shirt, athlete's shirt, driver bag, and breakfast and lunch. You can learn more or sign up to take part at the website truckride.ca. Again, that website is truckride.ca. Stay with us. There's more of the story coming. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to Prepass.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. Before the break, you were listening to a conversation I had recently with Tammy Blackwell, a longtime organizer and chair of the Special Olympics Ontario Truck Ride, formerly known as the world's largest truck convoy Ontario, and OOIDA member Ken Dane, a longtime participant who also helps with the event. And the topic is the event's 20th anniversary. We now continue that conversation in progress. Just a couple of technical details I think we need to make sure we get in here. You mentioned, of course, this is the Paris, Ontario Convoy. So I'm wondering if you can tell people just who maybe aren't familiar and may want to take part this year, where exactly that is, where in Paris this will start, and kind of how many trucks typically take part.
So it's in Paris, Ontario, Canada. So it's located between Woodstock and Brantford. And there is a website that we can give you, actually now called the Special Ontario Olympics Truck Ride, because we had to change the name over due to all the negative attention during, the Freedom Convoy and all that stuff. So now we'd like to call it the Special Olympics Ontario Truck Ride. And there is a website. We also have a Facebook page where a lot of our members will post pictures and different stuff. And we have some athletes on there, too, that'll share different experiences outside so we can still stay connected with some of the athletes during the year as well.
Okay. And how many trucks, Tammy, I think you might know this, how many trucks typically take part in this event?
It runs anywhere from 65 to 85 as a rule. And, again, it's not always the numbers. What we really do encourage is to get the registration up, because as we've grown, the athlete base has grown. So now more and more know about it, more and more want to come out for a ride. And it's not always possible for a driver to take an athlete. Sometimes they want to take their son, their wife, whatever. It might be the first time. So it's kind of fun for them to do that. But as I said, about a month and a half ago, they started reaching out from each of the various communities that do attend, saying, how many can we bring this year? And you really want them to get that ride. Sometimes, Mark, we have so many athletes come out, because we'll bus them in, that we have a track there. That's one of the reasons we picked Paris, is it just lends itself, because it's a fairgrounds, to what we do, so that we can line our trucks up, so we can get them road ready in line, so that we're not creating gaps out on the highway and things that do become safety issues. So what we've been lucky enough to do in past, if we have 3 or 4 athletes, can't get in a truck, don't want to go in a car, when the route is finished and comes back to the fairgrounds, everybody's parked, we'll grab 4 or 5 guys and take athletes, and they'll go around the fairgrounds track. It's an actual racetrack with the drivers, and they still get to blow their horns and carry on. And that's still the same idea to them. Like Ken says, they like to get inside, pull the air horn, see the gauges, and the dashes are exciting to them. And that's what it's about.
Okay. Just 1 or 2 more technical details I do need to get down. What is the date for the Ontario Convoy this year?
September 14th is the actual convoy. And again, we have functions happening on the 13th as well.
That's all I have. Is there anything else either one of you want to add?
You can jump on our website, which is www.truckride.ca, and you can donate. If you're in the area and you want to volunteer, by all means, we always take volunteers. And if just you want to get out on the road and see our route, we usually publish it within 2 weeks before. That's a fun thing too. Just go watch the trucks. There are safe overpasses you can do that from. We have a few neighborhoods we actually snake through to get out to the main roads. We have one thing that I love to hear about is there's a family with 2 young children that always set their chairs up ahead of time. And the boys, they wait for those trucks to come through so they can give them a big signal to blow their horns. And, it's the classic thing that the drivers look forward to. So do that. It costs nothing. If you are able to support, you can go on the tab that says donate. You can pick a driver for whatever reason, or you can just donate to the cause, and it all helps. It absolutely helps with all aspects of games and training, and so many programs Special Olympics run that most people aren't aware of besides games. Healthy eating programs, lots of
healthcare too, because you see that a lot at the games that you see televised. They do a lot of healthcare for the athletes, hearing aids, glasses, all kinds of other support. Recently, when they did the games in Germany, there was a big celebrity type presence. Tim Tebow, I saw, was there. He was a commentator. And they basically set up a small little village at some of these games to give the athletes much needed health care that they don't normally see in their normal daily lives.
So it all helps, Mark, and we're really pleased that you offered us this opportunity to speak today to all of your members and anyone listening. Thank you for all you do. If you're involved in a convoy anywhere in North America, hats off to you. Appreciate your support of Special Olympics.
That was Tammy Blackwell, a longtime organizer and chair of the Special Olympics Ontario Truck Ride, formerly the world's largest truck convoy, Ontario, and OOIDA member Ken Dane, a longtime participant who also helps with the event. And our topic has been the 20th anniversary of the convoy. Again, the event surrounding the drive starts Friday, September 13th, but the actual ride takes place Saturday, September 14th. The cost to take part is $100 per person and includes not only a spot on the convoy, but also a driver shirt, athlete shirt, driver bag, and breakfast and lunch. You can learn more or sign up to take part at their website, truckride.ca. Again, that website is truckride.ca. Convoy events take place in many U.S. states and Canadian provinces. The best way to find information is to go to the Special Olympics website for your state and search for the term convoy. Here's a few examples of convoys scheduled for yet this year. The Wisconsin Convoy will take place on September 14th as well at Mercury Marine in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Registration starts at 6:30 a.m. with the trucks departing at 8:15. Illinois will conduct its convoy on September 21st at CIT Trucks in Troy, Illinois. Registration starts at 2:30 p.m. that day, with the trucks departing at 4:15 p.m. In Kansas, the Northwest Truck Convoy is scheduled for September 7th. Trucks will start at 2 p.m. Mountain Time from Short & Sons Trucking in Goodland, or at 3 p.m. Central Time from Mittens TA Travel Plaza in Oakley. Both groups will travel to the Oasis Petro Travel Center in Colby, Kansas. For Landline Now, I'm Mark Reddick. If you want to make your voice heard on any of the issues we discuss here on the show, you should call your representative and both of your U.S. senators. To call any member of Congress, you can dial the U.S. Capitol switchboard. That phone number is 202-224-3121. Provide the operator your zip code and they can connect you directly to the office of your senators and your U.S. congressman. Again, that phone number is 202-224-3121. 3121. You can also make contact with those lawmakers by using the website fightingfortruckers.com. At that website, just go to the button that says Contact Your Representatives. Meanwhile, if you want to contact your state officials about an issue closer to home, you can get contact information for those lawmakers through that same website, fightingfortruckers.com. Again, that website, fightingfortruckers.com. That's our program for today. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
ULSD is hurting your engine. Fight back with Howe's Diesel Defender. Get the most powerful cleaning and maximum lubricity to protect and extend the life of your entire system. At a guaranteed increase in fuel economy, and you can't go wrong with Howe's.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a CAT scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forgiveness, accuracy, weigh your truck on a CAT scale.
I'm a dad.
A son.
A husband.
Wife.
I'm a writer.
Photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars. Fishing.
My kids.
Chrome. And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.